Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all of your sports books and track all of your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You can also sign up for sportsbooks and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as they're the best account on the platform. Head to the App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire to download the app.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is Three Men in a Box with Matt Grissom and Quentin Mills for Friday, November 17th, 2023. Yes, we're back. There were some issues last Friday on my end, little circuit breaker problem, but it is fixed. We are hardwired. I have shut down every box here, gentlemen. The only thing I have up is this. So if it is dragging, I will probably break every one of my screens here today, but we will be patient. Shout out to the gentlemen behind the glass, Joe Shea, Evan Lewis, Cade Horton, Olu, and Bennett. Shout out to our proud new partnership and sponsor, WagerWire. If you have not downloaded this app, please go to Google Play or wherever you download the apps. It's free. Start to get comfortable with it. Start tracking your bets. Now, that's a crazy concept, huh? Tracking your ROI. Take a look at all the sports books and promos and offers that are there. Take advantage of them. And if you're looking to make some quick flash cash, become an affiliate. Send an email to affiliates@wagerwire.com. Tell them JD from ECSI sent you. Zach, Travis, the rest of the team and community will take good care of you. But without further ado, let's bring in the two stars of this show, Mr. Quentin Mills and Mr. Matt Grissom.
Hello, Jeffrey. Mr. Dawson.
Afternoon, gentlemen. I missed you guys. You know, as I said backstage, I was doing my morning show last Friday, and then the shit hit the fan. I go into the other room, and it's pitch dark. I got no internet, and 5.5 hours later, 3 shows are gone, and we finally solved the circuit breaker. So welcome back.
Glad to be here. It's a little bye week. We're getting healthy. Get the ailments figured out. We're back.
Well, you know, we're getting closer to championship week in all the conferences, Big 12, Pac-12, Big 10, SEC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The landscape isn't changing that much. Alabama, Oregon, Washington, all outside looking in. Washington travels to Oregon State this Saturday, which now Oregon State is favored. People expecting Washington to lose that one to set up the rematch for Oregon and Washington. There, look ahead line: Oregon -6 in the revenge game, as we should say. But Quentin, I haven't talked to you physically now a couple weeks. Give me what your eyes are seeing. First of all, in the overall landscape, give us a little Florida Gator chat as well.
We can just skip by them. We'll start talking about Gator baseball here soon. No, I mean we got to get one of the next 2 wins. It's going to be tough. We play Missouri, play Florida State, just to keep the momentum on the recruiting trail, on the up and up. So it's going to be tough. Moving forward in the overall landscape, I think we're starting to see what Georgia really is. They kind of started slow. They have a new quarterback, running the system this year, and Beck. He's starting to find his own rhythm. You get Brock Bowers back, McConkey. I think they're going to be just fine. this week. I think they're going to separate themselves. I think Michigan as well, handles business once again, especially against a brutal second half Maryland team. They started out 4-1, and they've just, the wheels have fallen off there. So it's, I think Pac-12 has got a tough slate here. You got Utah, Arizona, you got Oregon State and Washington. That's a massive game. And then you got the ACC, I think they're just trying to hold on to Florida State, maybe run the table and get them in the college football playoff. But I think they're going to be the team that maybe slips up if Washington can run the table here and win that second game. If all plays right, beats Oregon for the second time. I think Florida State's going to be kind of the Texas A&M of a couple of years ago where they got shafted into the number 5 spot. So it's interesting. I think it goes Georgia, Michigan, and then I think there's a little bit of a drop off. I think Washington could be there. Florida State, if Washington loses. I feel like I'm missing somebody.
Michigan.
Yep. I think they're right there, even without their coach. He's literally up until kickoff. It sounds like he's allowed to be with them. So he kind of gives the guys the scheme and what to go for, and they just handle it for, a couple hours of the day, and then he gets back to home. So I think it's Georgia, Michigan, and everybody else.
Quentin, it's funny because you brought up the Florida State scenario, and everyone is just trying to find a way for them not to get in, because we forget opening game of the year. They beat one hell of an LSU team. We're seeing what Jaden Daniels is all about. He's trying to, make history, 2-3 loss team to, win the Heisman Trophy, put up 600 yards. Would look great as a New England Patriot, by the way, next year, but that's for another show there. But the fact of the matter is, most people will say the Pac-12 has been the better, the stronger conference, and without making this a popsicle headache, because a couple of years ago, Georgia undefeated lost to a 1-loss Alabama team, and both teams got in. This year, that's not so simple. Especially if you get a Florida State team that's undefeated, a Michigan team that's undefeated. Oh, and let's not bring up the fact that a 1-loss Texas team, who let's say wins the Big 12, already won in Tuscaloosa in week 4.
But that was so long ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the playoff committee doesn't want to give Texas full credit for that. Granted, it'll all work itself out in the end, and that's the best thing about the college football playoff is somehow they've gotten by where every year it just works itself out, and I think we're going to end up seeing the exact same thing happen this year.
I think you could have some chaos though if Ohio State beats Michigan, wins the Big Ten, and then you have Oregon beat Washington, so you have 2 1-loss teams there, 2 1-loss teams in Ohio State and Michigan. And then, if Alabama wins the SEC or, obviously Georgia, you could have a problem there in your 4, 5, and 6.
Somebody's going to get screwed, I'm sure. But on the flip side, it's a recency bias thing. If it's a 1-loss Washington team that just lost in the Pac-12 championship to Oregon, Washington's not going to make it. I mean, that's just – it is what it is. And I think you could actually make a case if Alabama blows out Georgia in the SEC championship. I don't know that Georgia should make it. I mean, they've had a cupcake schedule. They blow out the big games, but realistically, I mean, their resume doesn't really speak, volumes. So I would say a 1-loss Oregon team is going to be higher on my poll than a 1-loss Georgia team would be.
Well, Matt, I'm going to follow up on that. Go ahead, Quentin. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, does a 1-loss Oregon team, maybe trump an undefeated Florida State team because of the gauntlet schedule? You could factor that in as well. If they go and win the Pac-12, look at the schedule that they've had to play compared to Florida State, who realistically Duke is unranked. I mean, Riley Leonard, when he went down, that was the end of their season. An LSU team that's 3 losses now, their schedule looks pretty bad on paper now that it's kind of playing itself out. Clemson, 4 or 5 loss team. You could almost make the case a 1-loss Oregon team should get in over undefeated Florida State.
I agree that if Oregon cheats, I've been talking now for a month plus that I think the eye test in the Washington Oregon game alone, and this is a guy that gave out Washington in August to win the Pac 12 and to sneak into the Final Four and shock the world. Once Washington beat Oregon in that game, the missed field goal late, I still said on paper, Oregon was the better team. And I've said all along, I'll put them up against anyone. I'll put them up against Georgia, Michigan, Alabama. I'll take my shot because Bo Nix is playing at that level and they're physical and they got a good offense and defense. And I think they can match up with everyone. So I was going to go with this question, Matt. Two-time defending champs, undefeated, haven't lost in 3 years, loses 31-30 to Georgia, to Alabama in the SEC championship in a thriller. We know the committee and the SEC bias. How does Georgia fall 5 spots and they don't put Georgia in?
I don't know. That would be a tough scenario. It would kind of also depend on where everybody else is. Like, is Texas winning the Big 12? Because if that's the case, then one loss to Alabama's one loss is arguably to another college football playoff team. One loss would be to another college football playoff team. Oregon, Washington, and then I truly believe the winner of Michigan, Ohio State is going to be in regardless, assuming that nobody loses this weekend. So one is going home and one is getting in. I think in that case, you would probably have and then you've got Florida State too.
They haven't played anybody. That's the problem.
How could you leave Florida State out? So Alabama, Florida State, Georgia, and I don't know, Oregon or Michigan if they're undefeated. That's tough.
Well, I know on paper right now it doesn't look like much, okay? But when you really look, Florida State beating LSU week 1, coin toss game, dominated the second half. Going into Clemson, and I know Clemson has lost a few games. I get that part of it. But to go into Clemson and win, and it was in the middle of the season, is not an easy task. They'll have, what do they got? Do they end with Florida?
Yeah.
Okay, SEC. So the fact of the matter, if I ask this dumb question, Ohio State played Notre Dame and they were within a whisker of losing that game. And they scored on the last play of the game. Michigan, who has Michigan played this year? Okay, they played Ohio State, which is next week. We don't know who wins that game. They played Penn State. If I ask the dumb question, because we have anointed Michigan to this elite, who has Michigan played?
Oh, you're right on. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's a cupcake schedule. I think what you could say is they potentially have won 6 games without their head coach. I mean, that's an angle you can play. And the committee did say that they would take that into perspective because that was brought up. What if they lose a nail biter to Ohio State without Jim Harbaugh? And they at least came out, whether they're just saying it or not, and they actually do it. They did say they're going to take that into consideration. But no, you're absolutely right. Michigan hasn't played anybody.
I mean, I know we talk about this all the time in basketball, but I mean, if you wanted to rank, SEC has always been the best conference top to bottom. I tend to disagree. I think the SEC this year has been the Pac-12 from top to bottom has been a lot more competitive than the SEC. I mean, Bama after that lost to Texas. Milrose has gotten a lot better. The defense, they're trending in the right direction. And the look ahead line is Georgia only -3. And I guarantee you the whole world will be on Alabama there. They'll be, but as Quentin said earlier in the show, they're healthy now. Bowers is back. McConkey's back. And their defense, they have played to their competition. Put a Kentucky, put a Missouri, put someone good in front of them. they'll beat the crap out of you. But put a lesser team and they're just playing and chewing with their food.
When you're shaping up for an ACC championship game between Florida State and Louisville, and I don't know that Florida State beats Louisville. So that could work itself out to eliminate Florida State.
And I think the whole world is hoping Florida State does have a hiccup. I really do, because I think that would make it a lot more funner. Excuse my word there, funner for everyone out.
It's not going to happen this weekend versus North Alabama, and probably not in Gainesville either against Florida.
I don't know. And Matt, I mean,
that would be a fun spot to. I'm curious to know what that line's going to be, because I'll probably back the Gators there.
The Gators can do it because it's at the Swamp. The Swamp is one of the loudest places. I mean, look what they did to Tennessee. And then, Tennessee's a decent team. They suck on the road, but Florida plays really well at home. And then last year, you think about it, last year, they were just as bad, and they should have at least tied the game. There was a horrendous missed call where Anthony Richardson face mask gets ripped to the side of his ear and they don't call it. Florida was one play away from tying that game against Florida State. Now, obviously, Florida State got a little bit better, but anything can happen in that rivalry. Obviously, it's not going to happen this week against whoever, Northern Alabama or whoever you said they're playing. But I don't think people would be shocked if the hiccup did come against Florida. I'm not saying Florida's going to win. I'm just saying I think people aren't going to be shocked because they truly hate each other. That's one of the most horrific rivalries in college football.
And speaking of that, Quentin, let's dive into this week here. An uptick Missouri team that has been playing some great ball of late. Unfortunately, you get to go travel to Mizzou, 11-point underdogs. Give us your initial thought of the Gators this week against Missouri.
As much it's tough because Matt's doing an incredible thing with kind of predicting scores, and he's actually got the side to be the Gators if I looked at it correctly. The 10.5, that 10.5. I mean, there's no reason why the Gators can't stay in the game because Missouri's played such a tough schedule. You just kind of wonder, when does Missouri kind of tire out? They went from a 6-6 team to trying to be a 10-2 team, and that's hard to do in college football, especially in the SEC. I wouldn't be surprised if Missouri just comes in and stomps Florida, but I also wouldn't be surprised if maybe they kind of digress a little bit just from the daunting schedule that they've had to play week to week to week. Florida's offense looks good. It's their defense that can't stop anybody. If they can just get a couple stops, I think Florida could cover the 10. I'm just not confident that they can. It does sound like they're going to just kind of not throw in the towel, but let the freshmen play and just kind of really start getting them reps for next year. I don't know. Maybe one of them stands out, makes a play. Missouri's got a couple defensive starters out, which is going to be huge for Florida. I don't think they're going to stop Schrader, though. They're running back. They're not going to stop Brady Cook. They're not going to stop Luther Burden. Luther Burden might have 600 receiving yards for all I know on that secondary. So I don't confidently think Florida will cover the 10.5. I probably have to fade Matt's analytics, but I wouldn't be surprised if Missouri kind of just tires out.
Any chance you get caught peeking ahead to next week? Would you obviously rather lose this week, right, and then pull up the upset next week?
No, I don't think Florida's looking week to week. I think they're really looking at each game knowing that they have to be bowl eligible. I think the team, they haven't lost confidence. I mean, they're still playing hard. They played really good football for 2.5 quarters against LSU, and then they just kind of lost in a shootout. The defense couldn't make any stops in the second half. But the offense is there. They're putting the points on the board. They just need the guys on the defensive side to make a couple stops.
Matt, it has not been a great year for your Razorbacks. I don't want to ruin your afternoon here, but almost like a little recap here, going back to August and early September, where I think the hopes were high for at least a competitive year. A couple hiccups, some flashes, but never put it together. Give us your recap, almost start to where you are today, and almost what are you looking forward to in the next couple of weeks here with Arkansas and the football team?
Well, there was a stipulation in Sam Pittman's buyout clause that any time he loses more than 6 games, so I guess not bowl eligible, his buyout reduces. So I think that's possibly why we're keeping him right now. The coaching searches have started already across the country, most notably with Texas A&M. But to go back to Q's team real quick, I am on the Florida Gators plus 11. I do think their offense can keep it tight. But that being said, I'm also against Arkansas this week. Florida International was getting 31.5 earlier in the week. It's down to 29. I just don't think you're going to see a lot of life out of this Razorback squad. And you've got, Jacoby Criswell, who came in, did some good things late in that Auburn blowout. Florida International's not good. I'm not going to lie to you. I've got them power rated 20.5. That's one of the worst in the country. But then again, you look at the chart, and Florida International will be able to move the ball against our defense, who's been playing better, but not after last week. I just think a lot of times you're going to have players give up, and I wouldn't be surprised if Florida State scores one touchdown and then it turns into 3 just because of a lack of effort. You hate to say that about KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders, but he all but quit. Rocket did last week in the Auburn game. He just decided he wasn't going to play the entire third quarter. So it's just a lot of turmoil going on in that locker room. You've got Polar Express on in the walk-on locker room, and Pittman's out here trying to make a joke about it when they asked, Sam, we saw a video circulating about some players watching the Polar Express in the locker room. Do you have anything to talk about on that? He tried to roll it into a joke and say, no, I haven't seen the movie. I don't think at 3-7 you're afforded the opportunity to joke around about something like that. It just kind of shows the clown show of a program we've got right now, and it's unfortunate. Didn't think this would be the. I did not think this would be the record going into Florida International. I thought at this point of the season we'd be fighting to just get a better bowl game, but turns out now we're just fighting to not stay at the bottom of the SEC once again. It's reliving the Chad Morris days for me.
Matt, season ticket holder. I see the pictures. Nice, great picture last weekend with the wife at the game. You're still supporting them. What was the reason this year for the failure?
I think it starts at the top. I think Sam Pittman did a really good job with Chad Morris's players, which is saying a lot. The pinnacle of the Sam Pittman era was winning that 9th win over Penn State in the bowl game, and Hunter Yurachek rushed to give him a big extension. And I think at that point, he had not proven himself as a recruiter. We're almost dead last in the SEC in recruiting. I think we've got 1 4-star, 0 5-stars. It's just not going to cut it to win at a high level in the SEC. And I don't know what Razorback fans in general think that Arkansas is. I think we're an 8-4 team consistently. A lot of people think that we're going to make the college football playoff. I don't see it. I don't think we're ever going to amass what Bobby Petrino did, at the time we were number 3 in the country and everybody was hyped up about the football program. It's not it. I don't think we're going to get back to that. I don't care who we get as a head coach. So I'm going to keep supporting them. I did sell our tickets for FIU. I sold them for the Missouri game to close out the season. I have no anticipation to go back to Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium anytime soon until a change is made.
The turning point, the eye opener, and I'm going to just say three letters. Was it BYU?
Yeah, 100%. I think BYU turned into at least 3 losses on that schedule. You thought after pulling the upset in Gainesville and getting to come back home, you lay an egg against Mississippi State. Their coach gets fired, who has a better record than your coach. I don't know what we're doing. I mean, this has just been an abysmal season. Just shut down the program.
Shout out to Mr. Shady. Shady, you have been missed. Thank you for showing up today. Good friend of the show, and it's been a while. Good luck in your UFC picks. I've been waiting anxiously for the behind the scenes cards, but I know you're busy, so keep up with us, Shady. So God bless and have a great weekend there. Matt, actually, no, let's go Quentin.
Oh, hang on. Can I add one thing about Florida International? Their defensive EPA is ranked 97th in the country compared to our offensive EPA, which is 100th. We have a triple-digit EPA coming out of the SEC that we're the only team. I don't even think Vanderbilt's is that bad. So just to tell you how bad Dan Enos and that offense was with a stud quarterback and running back at the helm.
Let's not call him a stud.
I mean, he is totally regressed. KJ Jefferson, this is, I don't know. I'm done talking about it. Go to Q.
We're going to pump the brakes on him being a stud.
Well, he was.
One-hit wonder.
Before we get to the Matt Grissom six-pack, still not sponsored, CT Bets, #Viva. Q, what are you looking at this week? You got a couple lanes, got a couple plays on board. Again, not the greatest of weeks. There are some headline games, but what is your eye seeing?
Couple games. I actually like West Virginia -6.5 playing Cincinnati. West Virginia's 4-1. I like what they've got there. You know, I think they're finally, for Coach Brown, they're turning the Neil Brown, they're turning the program around. Garrett Green's not a bad quarterback. I think he's got 13 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions. They run the ball well. They play hard-nosed football on the defensive side. Emory Jones has 10 or 11 picks this year. I think West Virginia is going to give him fits, especially where they're playing. They're playing in Morgantown. It's always loud. It's always rowdy, regardless if they're 7-2 or 2-7. This year they're 6-4. They're playing for an 8-4 record, and they haven't had that record in a while. So if they can continue to win, I think the program's up, and they really want this win here. So I think they cover that. I also like Michigan -16.5. I did buy a little juice just for, obviously Harbaugh's not going to be there. I think they cover the original line, which I believe is 20.5, 19.5, 20.5. It's floating around. But I bought it down under that 17 in case you just have an off night. But I think they get it done when you can cover a spread and not throw a single pass in the second half against a way better team than Maryland. That's a pretty power flex move. So anything better than that is going to be coverable. And then I love Georgia, Iowa money line parlay. I think both teams handle business. I think even though Iowa lost their best defensive back, I don't think it's going to matter because Illinois is not throwing the ball and airing it out. And Brett Bielema. Georgia, I think they just handle business this week. I love that play. And then if you want to spice it up, I threw Georgia, Iowa, and Texas Tech money line in one for +240. I think Texas Tech gets it done against Central Florida. I think the way Central Florida won last week, I think it was 42 or 45-3. That's not going to happen back-to-back weeks. Texas Tech is trying to play for a bowl game at home against a Central Florida team that's just, in my opinion, not made for Big 12 football right now. Reese Plumlee is an issue, in my opinion. He's either hurt or he's turning the ball over. I think Texas Tech gets it done, gets a 6 win at home, gets bowl eligible, and I like both of those.
Love those picks there. Matt, before we get to the start of your 6-pack, the quick question that I have, I was going to ask you, does the Georgia number, I think I'm seeing 10.5 at Tennessee this week, does that look short to you?
Yes and no. I think you have to ask yourself what Tennessee team is going to show up. The one that showed up last week against Missouri, I think Georgia blows them out. This is one of those unique circumstances. I got Georgia at -9.5 early on. If it stays at 10.5 with Tennessee, I may be inclined to make like a first half bet. I think Tennessee could keep it somewhat close, but I think at the end of the day, Georgia, they've got that boa constrictor mentality where they're just going to ground and pound you and just make you beat yourself. And I think Tennessee is very susceptible to doing that. So to start off from the jump, Georgia -9.5, that was a play for me. And then let's go ACC. Louisville, I alluded to it earlier. I think the Cardinals have the best shot at meeting Florida State in that ACC championship game as long as they don't slip up. You've got a coin flip game versus Miami, who we've seen kind of have underwhelming games here and there. Louisville is – well, let me back up. So the spread has not mattered in this matchup. In the last 5 games, they've had a 21-point margin of victory, and the favorite has won in every matchup. So this being a coin flip, I feel like whoever you like, just lay the point or take the point, whatever. But Louisville, I think, is the -1 favorite right now, so I think the Cardinals get it done. Rivalry.
Matt, can I touch on that real quick?
Yeah, come on in.
So Miami benched Tyler Van Dyke last week. He had to come back in the fourth quarter because the backup quarterback that they started blew his elbow out trying to reach for first down. So Miami doesn't have any confidence in Tyler Van Dyke. I just want to throw that out there.
Good little nugget. They got their scare last week. Louisville did too against the Virginia Cavaliers. I think they played them really tight. Plus they've got extra rest now because they played on Thursday. But okay, Kansas State. I think the Jayhawks are on their 3rd string quarterback at this point. I laid it with Kansas State -7.5. I think it's like 8.5, 9. I still like the Wildcats to cover this by double digits. Florida, I touched on it earlier. I took them +11.5 actually. And then the big one, Oregon State. This may be the trendy dog that everybody is on, thus making it now the favorite. I think a lot of public bettors are still going to see Washington getting a point, 2 points, whatever it is, and back the Huskies. Probably not a bad idea. The Huskies are legit. I've bet against them, I think, the last 3 weeks, 2-1, but I laid it with the Beavers. Fun fact, 16-1 ATS at Reser Stadium. The Beavers are over the last 3 seasons. That's very impressive. So let's go Beavs, get it done. And lastly, UNLV, baby. In Barry Odom, we trust. 9-1 against the spread this season. They're facing off for the Mountain West against Air Force. I took the +3.5 with the Rebs. Let's cover once again.
That UNLV team, 5-1 this year on their team total over. It's been sitting usually around 30.5, 31.5. And I think in 4 of the 5 covers that we've had with them, I've got it done by halftime or the start of the 3rd quarter. They've been a cash cow for us there. Those picks, I like where your eyes are in all of them. That Miami game is flip-flop back and forth. Louisville opened up as the favorite. Miami then came over as the favorite. What I like to say very simply is Thursday night, the Texas, or I call it the oil money, flies into Vegas. So you can see an overnight move usually. And then tonight, the California money ships on over to Vegas. So then we see the sunshine money, the California money come in for Saturday morning there. So definitely some games that I have written down here from both you, and obviously the producers will be cutting up before. I know you guys got a show in 17 minutes. I don't want to hold you up. I just want to ask you a quick second. Florida Gator hoops. They got Florida State today. I do know that one of Florida State's better players is out. Have you caught the Gators at all in hoops?
I have. Florida actually, I think they're much improved this year. They're tall. That's one thing that they wanted to change. They kind of lacked size last year. They were a little thin. They've gotten a little bit bigger this year. They got a true guard here, Pullen. He should play tonight. He was a mid-major guy. I'm forgetting where he came from. But anyways, he averaged 20 points a game last year. He was suspended for the first 3 games, so they get him back. I think Florida's got a good shot here. You know, Riley Kugel is a solid number 2, kind of a 3 player. I like what Florida's doing on the basketball side of things. We'll tell tonight. They always put, Florida State's pretty stingy on defense. They kind of sucked last year at the beginning of the season, so hopefully Florida can take advantage and get not only a rivalry win, but an ACC win. So,
Matt, introduced to the Razorbacks with Nolan himself, 40 Minutes of Hell. I used to, oh my God, nothing better than watching the Hogs play some hoop on Saturday nights, especially against Kentucky back in the day. Have you been able to catch what they've been doing so far?
I have. They're 1-2 against the spread, but 3-0 straight up. They've had a lot of big spreads, 20, 24, 28. The only one that they've covered was the first game, Alcorn State. Now you're getting down. You're facing UNC Greensboro tonight, and I think it's 14.5 right now. I do think the Hogs come back and cover this one, but I have not made an official play. We're fast. We've got shooters this year. So that was kind of the Achilles heel for us down the stretch last year. We didn't have somebody that can go out there and get points for us. And now we've got Tremont Mark. We've got L. Ellis, the transfer from Louisville. I think this team is going to be really exciting and really fun to watch, especially once we get into conference play. And then we've got that big matchup with Duke at Bud Walton here coming up. So exciting times for Razorback basketball. And thank God, because the football program has beaten some spirits down.
The crawler's been going the whole time, guys. If everyone watching is not following, please jump on over to Twitter or X. Go follow Matt at Grissom on X, at the NCAA Insiders, Quentin Mills at Q Millie, and at the Notebook Wager One. Closing thoughts, Quentin. Tell them where to find you. All your great work.
Yeah, at NCAA Insiders, at Q Millie, at Notebook Wagering. All of our plays are on Twitter. Obviously, if you on the show, you'll catch our show after this, NCAA Insiders. So check us out on YouTube, Twitter, or X, wherever you find your social media. We'll be there.
Matt?
I think you covered it all. Follow me at Grissom on X or NCAAinsiders.com. You can visit that, get all of our bets tracked, and you can also download our preview guides that we do. I typically do 6 to 8 per matchup. It's got all of our advanced analytics, score projections. Shout out to JCam, Parker Fleming, and Harrison Eller with Statletics, all helping me with that. So trying to build a winning model with college football. We've got a lot of close edges in this one, this slate this weekend too. So tune into our show here in about 13 minutes as me, Smitty, and Q break it all down.
From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from Quentin Mills at Q Millie, and of course, Matt Grissom at Grissom on X. We wish everyone a great day. Shout out to Shady. Have a great weekend, my friend. 5 o'clock, Ron Marmoleski at Ron A Sports will come back to close out our week here at ECSI, talking some NCAA and NFL. Till then, have a great afternoon. See you soon.